It is now my great pleasure to welcome Boulder's newest rabbi, my friend and colleague, and no stranger to Bonei Shalom, someone who's shared much Torah here over the years in all kinds of different ways to all kinds of different people. And it's lovely to have the first Devar Torah that you're giving as officially as a rabbi, Rabbi Charna Rosenholtz.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Mark. I thank you so much for this honor and for the support of my chevra and this congregation. I'd like to start with a chant. Yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 dai. Hi dai dai dai. Yai dai dai. Mi ha ish. Hachafetz chaim, ohev yamim, ohev yamim, lirot tov. From Psalms 34, who is the one born from fire, who is eager for life, who desires years of good fortune? Yes, it is true. 10 weeks ago, I stood in front of the Torah at Bonei and was ordained. Standing in our sanctuary, flanked by two wings, two of the most profound rabbis I know, will forever be etched upon my heart. This was one of the greatest honors of my life. And I feel that the rest of my days will center around developing what and how to serve God, Torah, Israel, and all peoples. And what does it mean to come into my life purpose in a COVID era, in a time when structures are crumbling? More about that later. Exodus begins as a dramatic book and ends as a technical guide. Like any good visioning process, we begin with vision and end up with goals, strategies, and details. Not until the very end of the book of Exodus do we get the climax. God's glory rests among the people. Only if the Israelites pay attention to the details. In these two parshiot, we are concerned with how do we bring in wisdom from above to below? And what does it mean to have arousal from below to bring in God's glory? Our Torah portion begins when Moses calls the people, Vayachel, to assemble together. Why assemble? Why this particular verb? What does it mean to gather, to assemble? What is the power in that? This assembling would have occurred the day after Yom Kippur, after Moses came down from the mountain after 120 days. It would have been the first instruction he gave after this complete communion with Hashem. It would have been in a time when people were repentant from the golden calf incident, ready to live into their teshuvah. The word vayachel is used in the verb form, nifil form, and expresses the idea of moving towards something. According to Rashi, one does not actually assemble people with one's own hands, but they are assembled by command. And inherent within the verb is that the people assemble themselves. In other words, something has to happen within to bring one into the larger assembly. One can hear the call, yet one has to find the inner motivation to heed it. And heed they did. Each and every individual came to this assembly. Men and women alike were called into duty, into the establishment of this mysterious Mishkan. Think about it. This momentous occasion. This takes place approximately 6 months after leaving Egypt, and wow, they sure had been through the ringer. A year of plagues, miracles never seen before, redemption from the Egyptians, and then a crazy romp through the desert. Food is not food, water comes from rocks, and there is this crazy GPS system that is shepherding their every move. The Netivot Shalom teaches that it is true that the individual cannot accomplish this on their own, But the congregation, which is united as one humanity with one heart, has the ability to reach this level. Gathering together in assembly allows us to deal with difficult situations, to face the untenable, to deal with our suffering. We do this through relationship, commitment, heart, and the fire of creativity. The sages compared the building of the Mishkan to the creation of heaven and earth. The details of the tabernacle construction correspond to the configuration of the universe, both physically and spiritually. Safat Emet remarks that the Mishkan is a space offering, and that time, the very first commandment Moshe reminds Bnei Yisrael of, is a time offering. He remarks that in order to sanctify the house of Israel and their atonement protocols, time and space, Mishkan and Shabbat, must be interwoven together. Time and space. These are not things we think about on an everyday level. So how can we understand this in a contemporary way? The Mishkan is a portable structure that can hold the light of Shekhinah, the indwelling presence of God. This will become the structure needed, the appropriate space for all of the kahal, the assembly, to participate in building and maintaining, so that the entire community is aligned in the same direction. It was a tangible structure that would remind them that they were to become a people who could relate to an intangible God, something remarkable in that era. This practice can be seen in many elements of the structure of the Mishkan. For example, according to Ein Ayah, Rav Kook explained that the two tabernacle coverings upon the Mishkan relate to two separate layers of wisdom, which are the basis for spiritual light and holiness in the world. The first layer of wisdom is abstract and general in nature, while the second is practical and detailed. The abstract wisdom shines brilliantly with the multiple facets of the intellect, like the multicolored layers of the tachash cloth, and the varied hues of the imagination can shine there. This general wisdom deals with inner sublime matters and thus corresponds with the colorful covering. Practical wisdom, on the other hand, would appear to be a simpler matter, serving primarily to protect and guard the abstract concepts of the inner hidden wisdom. Revealed, concealed, concealed, revealed. But in truth, the practical wisdom of how to apply abstract principles in everyday life is both profound and uncommon. Spiritual abstractions may be revealed through normal prophecy and divine inspiration, but the internal Torah of deeds and mitzvot, this was revealed to the world. This call to the imagination lies at the heart of the Mishkan project. One can be an Adam, a creature of the earth, alone, or one can develop into an Ish, or Isha, a creature of both heaven and earth. These words for man and woman have something in common. They both have the letters Aleph and Shin in them, which translates as fire. Man has a Yud, woman a Hey, yet the fire burns through them both. In order to cultivate the soul and to develop, one must understand how to use the inner fire that burns within. Fire is creative as well as destructive. It can burn and destroy, or can warm and create. This paradox is one of the many we wrestle with to assist our growth in soul evolution. Paradox is the heart of Jewish thought. It allows us to oscillate between poles, and in order to reconcile them, we have to think in a new way. Israel sinned with fire, with the golden calf, and thus needs to be healed through fire. If we embrace fire as a medium of creativity, we can evolve. If we do not tend our imaginative fires, we become dull, more like the Adam that is herded through life. Nechama Leibowitz adds the making of the calf in her beautiful series. The making of the calf involved no more than a breaking off, a breaking loose from the bonds of self-discipline, giving free rein to the instincts. Accordingly, all the people took part in this free-for-all. Well, maybe not the women. The making of the sanctuary, on the other hand, called for self-discipline, the acceptance of the yoke of heaven. Both the Mishkan and Ha'egel, the golden calf, emerge from fire. The golden calf is the illness, and Bezalel is the doctor who has the power to heal. God says, I am the one who created the person who knows how to deal with fire. I taught them what is unteachable. I created many people to have chokhmah, wisdom, tevuna, understanding of patterns, and da'at, intimate and intuitive knowing. In fire, you can take two substances and in a flash, create something new. Dr. Aviva Zornberg teaches that how to meet each other in a new way is an imaginative act. One takes a singular force of an image that can be positive or negative, and then another image, and then joins them to create. An image can be static, like the Egel, yet static notions do not allow for anything creative. Dr. Zornberg reminds us that to see beyond the static is the essential nature of imagination. Static views may provide closure, and we need this on the one hand, yet, on the other hand, it also closes off complicated possibilities. Thinking of two different things at the same time and finding their connection is how the imagination functions. The importance of daydream cannot be understated. Reb Zalman often spoke of how important this is in order for the essential faculty of imagination to flourish. Innovation is made via the daydream moment that allows objects to be seen differently. It is the artist's stare that Dr. Zornberg talks about, the emptying of the mind, the allowing things to drift forward from the unconscious, which holds our soul potential. Thinking of two different things at the same time and finding their connection is how the imagination functions. Yes, fire, the essential element of the Ish and Isha. This fire both destroys and creates. And fire is forbidden on Shabbat. This element which creates the Mishkan is not used on Shabbat. Shabbat, one of the most important covenant of the Hebrews, of the Jewish people, one that we are commemorating together right now. The space of disallowing fire on Shabbat allows the necessary rest for creativity to renew. This oscillation of work and rest is a key to creativity. There's another essential element to the building of the Mishkan, and this is a different kind of fire, the fire of the heart. The centrality and generosity of the heart is at the center of redemption. If we look closely at the texts, we find the willing and generous heart mentions quite a few times. Kol ish hashar naso libo v'chol asher nadav rucho oto. Every man whose heart lifted him up, and everyone whose spirit made him willing. Kol isha chochmat lev, kol nidav lev. Women whose hearts uplifted them. Everyone who has a willing heart. All women whose heart was uplifted. Men and women both called out, cracking open heart, the fire and passion within the heart. Nachmanides teaches that the stirring of the heart implies the arousing of their capacity to undertake the work. For none had ever learned these skills before from any teacher, nor had ever practiced them before, but each one discovered their own natural talent or aptitude. Their heart rising, divine challenges, enabling them, lifting them up. Each of these people learned to create anew, to learn their own superpower. Tending our heart, finding vulnerability as a resource allows us to use this fire wisely. Oh, my friends, may we learn to face our earthly fears, to allow our creative inner fire to find how the Mishkan lives within our own body, our own flesh, our own community. Today is Parshat HaChodesh, the extra parsha we read before the new moon of Nisan. It reminds us that we create our own calendar, our own relationship with time. Moses becomes the leader of this tribal assembly, the 12 clans that are becoming a nation on the verge of freedom. The Israelites are given a command to create a new calendar system, a new way to measure time, that will differentiate them from the other feudal clans they will encounter. Torah writes, Ha-chodesh hazeh lachem rosh ha-chadashim. Risha Groner, a modern commentator, says, this month shall be for you the head of the months. It is the commandment that is traced as the source for the Jewish method of marking time through the lunar calendar. Of course, because we hold two poles reconciled with the solar calendar. And we note the moon's presence in our life as a measure and a symbol of cycles that come and go, the ebb and flow, that wax and wane, just as we do as people. This lachem stands out. For you, personalize this command. Do it through the moon. For you, we must reckon with the moon, notice it, look at her. She has the ability to diminish, to grow, to tzimtzum when necessary, expand when appropriate. She is a reflector of light, receiving from other planetary bodies. She is mutable. She can shift and change throughout times. She is the part of us that reflects the Holy Blessed One. These unique qualities allow the moon to be a teacher. She marks days, holidays, tides. She allows us to create. We can empty and fill again, allowing renewal. Today is particularly profound as we are in the newness of renewal. Nisan, the month of Pesach. Okay, my friends, let us come in for a landing, as Reb Zalman would say. In review, today is the end of Exodus, the end of the year of months, Shabbat HaChodesh, when we prepare for new beginnings. I ask you, me, all of us, how do we create our own portable Mishkan? How do we allow the sacred to fill our body, our home, our community, our world? What do we dare to dream up in the future? How do we creatively imagine a world after COVID? Something that will create something new, not going back to what was, but allowing these experiences to renew us, to mine this last year. So I have a few questions. What has shifted for you this year? What has changed in our homes and how we relate to our own sacred space? How have we dealt with our isolation? Change shifted in our families, in our social groups, in our online worlds. What has strengthened us? What have we discovered? Have you discovered a new superpower? This is the time to collect. What do we want to lift up for tikkun? What can we bring into the world as we emerge from our cocoon? It's a creative act. It's finding our inner fire and bring it forth. Yes, there is deep spiritual technology throughout these two parshiot. There are the mind-numbing details of the Mishkan, concealed technology of how each of the items are part of our own body and a reflection of the cosmos. The fundamental elements, how we create our arisal from below in Vayechel, and how we receive the bestowal from above that Parshat Pekudei brings forth. It is about God's entering into one's inner space of feeling held in faith and love, emunah and ahava. We have the ability to have that sense of the glory of God dwell within us. It takes effort for that kavod, that glory to be felt. But we have the power through our breath, through our words, our thoughts, our actions, to shift suffering into something that can bring delight. COVID, when mined for richness, if we change our vowels, can become kavod, glory. As Torah teaches, it is not in the heavens that you should say, who among us can go up to the heavens and get it for us and impart it, that we may observe it. Neither is it beyond the sea that you should say, who among us can cross to the other side of the sea and get it for us. No, the thing is very close to you in your mouth and in your heart to observe it. Choose life. May we be strengthened and strengthened. Shabbat Shalom.